Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Yankees sweep the Angels in Anaheim. So, Yankees improved to 35-20, which is a high watermark, being 15 games over 500, and they've won 7 consecutive series. So, really going in on a high note into a showdown with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and what is really one of the most anticipated series of the year. With it being a World Series rematch, of course, and look, could be a World Series preview. I mean, it's certainly well within the realm of possibility. And what the Yankees have done lately is absolutely been unbelievable in the pitching department. Pitching has been the name of the game for the Yankees. As much as they lead baseball in most offensive categories, this Angels series, the main thing I want to talk about is specifically the starting pitching. Bullpen did a nice job, but it was Ryan Yarbrough, Carlos Rodon, and Clarke Schmidt. And the Yankees at this point, they are just getting quality outings game in, game out from Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, Clarke Schmidt, Will Warren, and Ryan Yarbrough. Um, and this isn't even include this is a situation where, Garrett Cole out for the season, Luis Heel out for at least probably half of the season. Um, Obviously there was others involved that, were ineffective or hurt. Marcus Stroman, it's a good thing he's not in the rotation, right? But obviously he was someone that at first was. So things are really rounded into form. I mean, Fried has been good from the beginning, but Rodon has been completely dominant in like the last like month and a half. He's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. Um, Will Warren, of course, like that has been a topic of conversation with. I mean, he's also honestly been one of the better pitchers in the American League probably in the last month. And Ryan Yarbrough, when called upon, has done the job and some as well. And then Clarke Schmidt, I guess like his is kind of the least notable, if you will. But even he, you take a couple of bad outings, you know, out of the equation, and he has really settled in nicely after starting out the season on the injured list. Now, look, here's the thing: the Angels, they don't have a good lineup, right? You have to acknowledge that. But I guess just it's nice the fact that you wish the Yankees could have swept the Rockies, but then you sweep the Angels. And if you had told me the Yankees would go 5-1 of those 6 games, I'm signing up for that and not even looking back. Like, it's not easy to sweep. This is the first Yankee road sweep of the season, 4th overall. They had 3 previously, home against the Brewers, um, Royals, and Texas. And now they get this one at the Angels. So, like, just the vibes are high. The offense wasn't really very good this series at all, and that's not great, and that, needs to be discussed just as far as, hey, like, let's say the Yankees struggle against the Dodgers offensively, then you're gonna track back to this Angels series and a little bit in the Rocky series. They had that explosion in game 2 of that series in the 5th inning. Surrounding that, though, given, the fact that Coors Field is one of the, greatest, hitters parks that you can find, they were kinda quiet there as well, and even in the Texas series too. So, again, it has been pitching, and to me, like, that I like that, because that was a major question mark going into the season, and it didn't start out well at all. I was very concerned as far as how are you filling out, like, 2 or 3 of these spots? Now, you're feeling pretty good for anyone that, that's gonna basically toe the slab. So, it's really good, but um, let's discuss this Yankee Angel series as a whole. I guess some initial thoughts as far as like how it ended up for certain individuals. Like Aaron Judge, it was a series where he really actually didn't do a crazy amount. He leaves the series batting a mere mortal 391. So it's still crazy, but it's like, yeah, like to me, we've reached a point where it would be highly impressive if Aaron Judge gets back to 400. Um, it's far from impossible, but like that would say something. But he is capable of going on crazy stretches where he's completely unstoppable. And even within this sort of, it's not even a cold streak, but like he's still drawing walks. 2 of them actually intentional. We'll talk about in game 3. Ron Washington going with a little bit of a different approach, really from the start of the game. Um, but game 1, and for that one, you're coming off of really barely. sort of winning that Rocky series. But game one, this was out of all three, the one that was, I guess, the least of a nail biter, the one that the Yankees kind of had the most secure. But really, all three games were kind of somewhat in question by the end, even this one. But Ryan Yarbrough picks up a second win. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. And all it was a leadoff home run by Zach Neto. That was it. That was the one mistake, which was crushed. Other than that, Yarbrough was very good. So it's crazy that Yarbrough, like, he's giving you length. I mean, 6 innings of work and efficient at that, 88 pitches in 6 innings. That's a really good job by him. Um, and if nothing else, even if he gets bumped out of this rotation at some point, I think he'll be someone that's useful out of the pen. So as far as the lineup was concerned, Paul Goldschmidt was the one that sat, and you're going to see that against righties. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if he even comes off the bench in one of the games against the Dodgers, just because the Dodgers are throwing out 3 right-handers. And so, it's one of those things where Goldschmidt absolutely owns lefties to a level that I don't even know if I've ever seen. It's that good. But against righties, he's not necessarily bad, but I just think that there's other options that are intriguing. And also, him being a veteran, it's good to sort of get him some, days of rest anyway. For the Angels, on the mound was right-hander Jack Kahanowitz. And he goes 6 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. So not great, not terrible. Um, but like I said, to start out, it was Neto with that home run to dead center field off of Yarbrough, his ninth homer of the season to make it 1-0 Angels. But the Yankees get it going in the fourth. And it would be a Ben Rice single, Trent Grisham single, and then an Aaron Judge single to make it bases loaded, to which then Cody Bellinger gets a bases loaded walk to tie it up at 1. Then Dominguez strikes out, but the big blow of the game, and honestly, the offensive star of the series, he didn't go crazy, but we're not dealing with many guys that did much offensively, but Anthony Volpe gets a bases clearing 3-run, of course, double. And Volpe's actually hit a pretty decent amount of doubles this season. As much as Volpe, to me, there's still a lot of question marks. Like, he hasn't, I don't think, like, you can't say he's been bad this season, right? Like, that isn't fair to say. Do I think that there's still a lot of things he needs to work on? Yes. But Volpe, he's been serviceable at the very least. And that's a big 3-run double right there. That was the hit of the game by far. And it made it 4-1 Yanks right there. And Yarbrough at this point is really just settling in and making pretty quick work of the Angels at this point and goes 6 strong. Let's go to the seventh, and it would be Yuri De Los Santos. Yuri De Los Santos in the seventh inning was very good. He gets a couple of strikeouts, goes 1, 2, 3. That was probably De Los Santos's most impressive inning of work since he's been on the Yankees this season. So De Los Santos actually gets a hold. It goes down as his second hold of the season, and his ERA does drop to 1.64. So, I'm not the biggest De Los Santos fan, but again, in terms of depth, you can do a lot worse. And he would actually start the 8th inning, but before that, top of the 8th, Yankees add on one more run. And it would be on an Austin Wells sac fly. Austin Wells, I think that this was Austin Wells' 6th sac fly of the season, which is second most in baseball. And the Yankees, I think, leave this series being the team that has the most sac flies in the league. That's good stuff. Like, that is stuff that I think maybe we haven't seen in years past. I don't have the stats to back that up, but I certainly don't remember them being number one in baseball in that category. Those are little winning ways that you're going to need in the long run. So Wells gets that sac fly to make it 5-1. And then in the 8th inning, De Los Santos gives up a hit and then gets a strikeout, and Mark Leiter Jr. comes on. And after allowing a single to Luis Rengifo, strikes out Neto, and then Nolan Shanuel grounds out. So that keeps the lead at 5-1. Here's where things get interesting for me as far as talking points. Bottom of the ninth, they go to Luke Weaver. Luckily, doing this didn't cost them a series. It nearly did in a couple of instances. I thought that was a big-time head-scratcher, considering that Weaver had pitched a decent amount previous to that, including the day before, where he didn't pitch so well on Coors Field, and it felt like that was a taxing outing for Weaver. They go back to Weaver in what was a non-save situation. I think the Yankees, they view a 4-run game of the night as a save. They truly do view it that way, unequivocally. And I'd make a bigger deal about this if it actually cost them a game. It didn't, but again, it nearly does later on. In this game, Weaver, again, he wasn't necessarily great in this one either. There was a one out Taylor Ward walk. There was an infield single by Travis d'Arnaud. That was a nice play by Peraza to keep it in the infield, but then he does get Joe Adell to pop out to end it. So a scoreless ninth inning from Weaver. ERA's at .73. And the Yankees win 5-1. So again, Yarbrough is really the story, but also give some credit to Anthony Volpe for that big 3-run double that he had in the middle of the game there. So we move to game two. Game two is really just a Carlos Rodon masterclass. And he actually made a really, really nice fielding play. It was kind of a lefty Derek Jeter play where he makes the play, more towards the third base side of the mound, of course, and he just kind of leaps, jumps, and it was a nice scoop by Goldschmidt, and they got the out. Really one of the nicer plays you'll see, but Rodon gets the win. He picks up his seventh win, so he matches Fried in terms of the win column. 7-3 for Rodon, 7 innings, 5 hits, no runs, no walks, and 10 strikeouts. You love to see that. No walks, 10 strikeouts is brilliant, and his ERA drops to 2.60. We're looking at someone that if the decision was made right now, those are all-star game numbers for Carlos Rodon, and it's great to see. So he was really the story in this one for sure. The odd man out of the lineup in this game would be Jason Dominguez. And then as far as the Yankees offense was concerned, look, it didn't do much. Tyler Anderson, the lefty veteran, was on the mound for the Angels. He picks up the loss to drop to 2-2, goes 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, only 1 earned, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts. So a pretty good outing for Tyler Anderson, actually. Really, gave the Angels a chance to win. But Rodon was just that much better. The Yankees do get their first run in the fourth inning, and it's via a Ben Rice home run, his 11th homer of the year, and another lefty homer for Rice. We saw that recently, I believe, against Patrick Corbin of the Texas Rangers. So Ben Rice, whose numbers against lefties aren't great, at least you are seeing, and you have seen the ability that he can run into one as far as home runs are concerned. So that was big. That makes it 1-0 Yankees. And then they would score again in the top of the sixth. And really, thanks to a 3-base error by center fielder Matthew Lugo, they could have honestly given Bellinger a triple. I feel like usually they would in this case, but they did. Look, Lugo should have made the play. He didn't. So it's runner up there, 1 out, and Anthony Volpe gets an RBI single to make it 2-0. So a big hit for Volpe there. And then the Yankees would score again in the seventh, and it would be Oswald Peraza off of Hector Neris. An impressive home run to center field, his third homer of the year. So Peraza showing that pop, which, look, the bat has not been good for anyone as far as that Peraza, LeMahieu, Bibas sort of trio that is in the mix without Jazz Chisholm Jr., without Oswaldo Cabrera. None of them have been great. Luckily, they've been good defensively, and I was Yankees are winning games, but a home run for Peraza there, which ends up being very much needed. Gives the Yankees a 3-0 lead. Let's go to the eighth after Rodon goes 7 strong. In the eighth, Jonathan Loaisiga with a very impressive 1-2-3 inning. Gets a strikeout in there. Liked what I saw. It's Loaisiga's first hold, and I thought that for Loaisiga, felt good about that one. So we go to the ninth. And who pitches the ninth inning? Devin Williams. Devin Williams ends up getting his 5th save, but oh boy, was it dicey. Devin Williams has been good lately for the most part in, more of a setup role. So we could chalk it up to, hey, at the very least, this guy's not made for the ninth inning with the Yankees, at least. He's not someone you want anywhere near a safe situation. That's just what it is. I think every Yankee fan would agree with that. And I got to be honest with you, just in general, I do still have my concerns with Devin Williams. I know the numbers speak for themselves. They do. And, if he ends up being a good 8th inning man, fine by me. But it was just a reminder that this guy, he's a fucking head case. He has just been frustrating. But luckily they get the win. What happens is Yoan Moncada homers to start the inning, his 5th homer of the year. Then Taylor Ward singles. Then Travis d'Arnaud nearly hits a game-tying 2-run homer. Went to the warning track, which Grisham caught. Then Rengifo singles. So, Williams getting beat around, but what ends up being a really big play. And DJ LeMahieu has not been good offensively, right? He got up to a little bit of a hot start initially. He's really cooled down to the point where it's tough. But defensively at second base, he's been pretty good. And there's a play on a ground ball hit by Joe Adell where it's a grounded to shortstop. First and third, one outs the situation, 3-1 game. And Volpe is able to throw to LeMahieu. Not a great throw by Volpe, but it wasn't an easy play. And LeMahieu is able to keep his foot on the bag to get the out. The Angels challenged it, but the call on the field would stand that he was out. So a nice big play by LeMahieu there. And then Logan O'Hoppe pinch hits for Chris Taylor in the ninth. And it's a 3-0 count. And Devin Williams catches a break, and the Yankees as well. Um, he swings at ball four. 3-0 count. He was going for it. It was a high pitch, and he pops out to Oswald Peraza in foul territory. So that could have ended up very badly, but didn't. Yankees hold on for a 3-2 win. So at that point, they win the series. But let's get a little bit greedy. Let's go for the sweep, and they get it. And it would be Clarke Schmidt that he would be the one that would deliver. Gets his second win, improves to 2-2. Goes 6 innings, 4 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. So not like an overly dominant outing by Clarke Schmidt, but a really good one after he struggled as far as pitch count. First 2 innings, he threw over 40 pitches, but was still able to give them 6 much-needed innings in what was a pretty thinned-out pen. And again, and it goes back to the game before where Devin Williams gets that save, where to me, like, that should have been where Luke Weaver was. I digress on that, but I'll bring it back here before we get to the end of this one, too, where that Weaver decision can almost cost them in game 2 or 3, or even both, arguably. Um, for the Angels, it was Yusei Kikuchi picking up sort of the hard luck loss. He loses to go to 1-5. This is kind of a classic Kikuchi stat line: 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. He walks a lot of hitters, but yet has always been able to kind of just get out of jams. That's what he did here. Like, he came out kind of a somewhat, not totally unscathed, but gave up a couple of really, a lot in the first couple of innings, but the Yankees only got 1 run. It would be enough to hold on. The Yankees have had 3 1-0 wins this year, which is pretty nuts considering we're not even in June. The odd man out of the lineup in this one was Ben Rice. He would pinch hit. But the Yankees get the run of the first inning, the only run of the game. And, what ends up kind of happening, which when you think about it, it did kind of cost it actually did kind of cost the Angels the game. They intentionally walk Aaron Judge with a runner on second and 1 out. Interesting decision in that moment. Maybe with 2 out, like, it's a little bit more, it makes sense. And I think walking Judge in general, like, that's kind of a smart move, but there's just too much inning left. And what ends up happening is Cody Bellinger then walks. So it's bases on 1 out, and Anthony Volpe gets a sac fly. So Volpe is at it again. And what was kind of an innocuous sac fly, you look back on it, it was the only run they scored. So Volpe gets the 3-run double in game 1, the RBI single in game 2, and the sac fly here. So, Volpe, look, 246 batting average, 767 OPS for Volpe on the season. It's nothing to write home about, but it's also a big improvement on what we've seen from Volpe in the first 2 years of his career. So, something to maybe build off of. LeMahieu would be up with bases loaded, 2 out in that first inning and fly out. So they had a chance to tack on and didn't. First inning was tough for Clarke Schmidt, but he gets out of it. Second inning, Yankees have another opportunity. And what sucks too is there was a double play by Peraza mixed in the middle of it, but there was a 2-out rally, which leads to a bases loaded 2-out spot for Cody Bellinger. He actually had a 3-0 count, but Kikuchi worked back in to the count and was able to get Bellinger to fly out. So a nice job by Kikuchi. Stays 1-0 Yanks. Second inning, Schmidt in trouble again. First and second, no out, but then he gets a couple of strikeouts, gets a ground out, and kind of luckily is able to put up a couple of scoreless innings. Then at that point, Kikuchi and Schmidt start to basically settle in at this point. And the Yankees really didn't get that many opportunities. I mean, I guess there were here and there as the game presented itself, but really mostly in those first 2 innings. Schmidt is able to give the Yankees 6 innings, which was huge. And let's just jump to the bottom of the 7th. And I should also mention, like, it is kind of crazy that Aaron Judge was intentionally walked in the first 2 innings. It's just, you never see that. In the 7th, Ian Hamilton comes on, and this was a really, really nice outing by Hamilton. He picks up his second hold, goes an inning and 2/3, and allows just 1 hit, no walks, no runs, 2 strikeouts. It was much needed for Ian Hamilton, who, again, he's been struggling lately. This was a 1-run game where they didn't want to use Weaver. They didn't want to use Devin Williams. They didn't want to use Jonathan Loaisiga. And so it led to them having used Hamilton, but he gets it done. Pitched a really good 7th inning. And they bring him out to start the 8th. And there was a leadoff single by Chris Taylor, and then a sac bunt by Luis Rengifo, which I kind of almost feel like worked to the Yankees' advantage. It was a 2-0 count when he did it, so I didn't mind that as a Yankee fan. And then Zach Neto flies out. So a nice outing for Hamilton. And Tim Hill, in a big lefty-lefty situation, for one pitch, gets Nolan Schanuel to ground out to LeMahieu at second. So Tim Hill gets his fourth hold. And that's the stuff I want from Tim Hill, to come in, to finish an inning against a lefty. It's exactly what happened, and it works. Let's go to the bottom of the ninth. Mark Leiter Jr. is on for the save. And again, like, and Leiter Jr. has been really, honestly, pretty damn good this season. So it's a step up from what was like, at this point, like, he is clearly ahead of Ian Hamilton. It's not even a question. Like, Leiter Jr. is one of your more relied upon relievers. So he's no bum, but still, Luke Weaver has been one of the best relievers in the game. So it's unfortunate that he came into a 4-run game in the first game where you had closer situations in games 2 and 3 that he was unavailable for, but I digress. But Mark Leiter Jr. starts out the inning pretty good. But then with 2 out, he walks Jorge Soler, and it leads to Logan O'Hoppe being in the same situation he was in last game, where he basically represents the winning run, and there's a runner on that's the tying run, of course. And the difference here, like, O'Hoppe kind of fucked himself in the last game. This game, he got fucked by the ump. And give JC Escarra credit. Logan O'Hoppe strikes out looking on a 2-2 pitch that was clearly outside. And this is where I want to give some praise to Escarra. And by the way, Mark Leiter Jr. picks up his second save of the season. JC Escarra has been one of the best catchers in the game as far as framing pitches. It's really amazing what the Yankees have done as far as them just finding catchers. And a lot of them aren't even in their organization anymore. But like, it has been like credit there, where from high and low places, they're able to find productive catchers, whether it be offensively and or defensively. And Escarra, I really think that he deserves to get more opportunity, especially with Austin Wells kind of struggling. Like, Austin Wells, he's not someone that like I think has been necessarily horrible, but he hasn't been great. And I think Escarra, I want to see him get more of a chance because I'm intrigued by his overall game. Look, he's not a young prospect by any means, but he's someone that, just made his major league debut this season. And I hope that kind of as time goes on, that he gets more looks. Because I think that he's provided, especially lately, like winning plays, a big hit, a big play defensively. He had a walk-off sac fly against the Padres as well. There's just been some big moments where I feel like he's gotten the job done. So the Yankees get the sweep. They're 35-20, which is really, really impressive. I mean, I think they've won maybe 16 of the last 20 games. And so now it's Yankees-Dodgers, which, again, it's a World Series rematch, and it could be a World Series preview. The first matchup is Max Fried against Tony Gonsolin. And I'm really curious to see how Fried does. Fried's been unbelievable this year. This will be one of his toughest tests. He's used to the Dodgers. I mean, Dodgers, having been with the Braves, like, there's been playoff battles for Fried versus the Dodgers, just overall in general, like, that's a National League team. So it's not an unfamiliar spot for Fried. And in fact, he's from California. I think he might have grown up a Dodger fan. Not positive on that, but he might have. So that's an interesting storyline. And Tony Gonsolin, the right-hander, will be on the bump for the Dodgers. Game 2 will be more of a matchup between younger starters, Will Warren and Landon Knack. That to me, that's another curious one where Will Warren, like, that's a huge spot for him. What will he do when the lights are shining brightest? So, like, that's the exciting element for me is seeing what some of these guys can do in the bright lights. And then game 3 could be the most intriguing matchup. It's right now listed as TBD for the Yankees, and then you got Yamamoto for the Dodgers. And Yamamoto right now, among healthy starters, is the ace for the Dodgers. He's had some struggles lately, but the numbers are still great. He's 6-3 with a 1.97 ERA. This will be the toughest of the 3 for the Yankees. It's either going to be Rodón or Yarbrough. I kind of have a hunch that it might be Rodón. This reminds me of the Mets Sunday night game of, just a couple weeks ago, where it was Yarbrough's turn, but they went with Fried because, he was on normal rest. And if it is Rodón versus Yamamoto, that would be a game 2 rematch from last year, which the Dodgers won. And it was at Dodger Stadium. So weird how that works, where it'd be the same exact pitching matchup. And I think it's curious to me that it's listed as TBD. It just tells me that it's Rodón. Now, for Yarbrough, he was actually on the Dodgers last year. So there's that as well. And if they do go Yarbrough, I'm not going to I'm not going to be like terribly upset if they do, because he's been very effective. And I feel as if he could probably work his way through. But I do want to see Rodón And it's for a similar reason that I just said, for the fact that I want to see again what he can do in the biggest of moments. He's done such a good job this year in a way that really kind of can make you feel a lot better about him in when we're talking about things down the line, right? In October, like he's just been so good, but it'd be fun for it to be Rodon versus Yamamoto, no doubt about it. So very excited for this series. Dodgers coming in 34-22. They are currently in first place in the National League West. Yankees, the only team that is better than them in the American League is the Detroit Tigers, who have been playing great baseball. They're 37-20. So it's really close. They're tied on the loss side. And there's so much season to go. But like, this is one that I think all of us fans are going to latch onto a little bit more than just they all count the same, but this one is going to mean a little bit more. And for me, it's very simple. Continue winning series. Let's extend this to 8. Right now it's at 7. I think winning 2 out of 3 is certainly within the realms of possibility, but what is really key, especially when you look at these pitching matchups, is winning that first game between Fried and Gonsolin. That's the one that to me is slanted in the Yankees' favor the most. So you win that game, and at that point, it's pretty simple. You just got to find a way to split the next 2. So it'll conclude what's been the longest road trip of the season, but so far, so good. Yankees 5-1 against the Rockies and Angels, playing some good road ball, and now it ends up in the big showdown, a World Series rematch between the Yankees and the Dodgers.